Hello, today I'm joined by my guests, Bruce Adams and Chris Poulton. Bruce is from Hive and Chris is from Lifetime Legal. How are you doing, guys?
Very well.
Very well, thank you.
Welcome. Today we're here to talk about a very changing landscape, almost ever-changing landscape in terms of what an agent's obligation now is, in terms of the information that we have to gather and also provide. And anybody that's been living under a rock will have missed this, but we all now have to do it. And we need quality information that we can rely on, but more importantly, purchasers are also going to look at this data and they're going to make decisions based on the information that we're providing them with. And it's a legal obligation that none of us can hide from. So, Bruce, I'm going to hand over to you. Tell us a little bit about what Hive have been doing, because you were ahead of the curve in terms of making information available to people, but now it's sort of coming to a reality, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we've developed an earlier product of ours called Location Information, which was more about providing agents with local area information. But now, where the market is mandating upfront material information, we've tried to get ahead of that curve. We have a collaboration with Lifetime Legal that help us plug in some of that property-specific data, and we've been doing it for some time. So as things stand, we're actually providing in excess of what information is required.
So agents that are using you are able to not just fulfill their obligations, but go above and beyond in terms of the quality of that information.
Yes, absolutely. With the services that we provide with our quite unique customer journey, we're able to surface a lot of information. I think that historically would just be kept in the background, and other elements we're now proactively collecting and working with agents to build a culture where we can get their vendor clients engaged in providing information. And the recipe with us is actually about using that information to surface it upfront in a product we have called an IPAC, so purchasers can see that information critically before they make an offer. And that's really what's key with us.
And I guess now every customer journey starts with that whole getting to know your customer, but now we have that legal obligation as well to get through what used to be a little bit awkward. You know, could you pop in with a copy of a passport or a driving license? And none of us knew what we were actually looking at or meant to be doing with it. It felt, I've got to be honest, as an agent, slightly dodgy photocopying these official documents, and we still didn't know what we were doing with it. But that's in the bad old days. Luckily, we have people like Lifetime Legal to step in and make sure that we're doing it properly. Chris, if you could talk to us about AML obligations, because it's an obligation, but the way that you guys do it is thorough, but it also fits really nicely as an onboarding process, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I mean, obviously it is an obligation and it's got more onerous as time has gone on. And enforcement has got more specific as time has gone on. But we run a blended AML service, you could call it, whereby, unlike some of our competitors, it's not just fill a few things in online, there's your result, you're on your own. It's what we call an enhanced process. So some clients will sail through the AML process, no problem at all, a copy of the driving license, or they'll give us a passport number. When we speak to them on the phone, we'll go away, we'll pull the property information, we'll compile a pack. That's not a problem. But sort of between 30 and 40% of people actually don't just sail through first time. The quality of the information uploaded can sometimes be not quite as good as it needs to be a pass. And when you've got transactions such as probate transactions or people working under powers of attorney and so on and so forth, there needs to be some more due diligence done. And that's where the blended part of our process comes in that we have a room full of people that are ICA qualified, that ensure that the information we're collecting is correct, and that the result that we deliver is correct, more importantly. There's nothing worse than a pass that shouldn't be a pass, or a fail that shouldn't have been a fail. So we try and make sure that it's right every single time. And whilst we do that, at the same time, it's funded, if you like, by the sale of our conveyancing services. So if the client chooses to use us for conveyancing, that's great. And when they do choose to use us for conveyancing, they then also fall into our property information form process, whereby they're sent copies of the TA forms to complete very early on in the transaction life cycle. And anyone that's seen those forms will know that they're quite onerous to fill in. But it adds and supports the investment trail that the client goes through. And we find that makes that client very sticky around both the conveyancing, Hive, and the estate agency side of the business.
To me, that makes perfect sense, because you're not just checking somebody's identity. It's almost a seamless transition through that process, because, as you say, there's information they're going to need during the conveyancing process. Some of that now we'll offer up front to buyers, so they can make decisions, material information that they need. But most importantly, you'd be amazed, and I've heard of this before, agents who get the identification side of things right, they don't bother checking that they actually own the property right either.
Yeah.
But your service fully encompasses that, because you get those land registry documents straight from day one. And in tricky situations where you have got powers of attorney, court of protection stuff, you might have probate stuff to deal with. It can get tricky, and I don't believe it's our expertise as agents necessarily to pick through that, but I know that you guys are well up on it.
Yeah, and I think that the standard of the information provided, by the time it's got into Bruce's pack, by the time that information is so easily digestible, it gives the estate agent a real tool that demonstrates professionalism and their ability to market and sell this product. It's a bit like, it's truth well told. This is the situation, this is where you are, and this is the process that we've gone through to bring you to this point.
No, it's fantastic, and I think it fits really nicely as part of that customer journey. And I think that they're going to feel, initially really well looked after, even before an agent's done the main thing that they need to do, which is find a buyer or find somebody to rent their property. So, Bruce, coming back to the iPacs, I ask every supplier what the product costs. And you can tell me what your product costs, because this isn't just a way that agents can access it really easily, but they can add to their bottom line, so that the cost savings are huge.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as Chris touched on, the way that the products or the services are funded are through conveyancing services. So the actual property transaction is what's going to fund what we do. But we're also, a revenue stream for the agent on top of what we provide. And I think the key for us is that we're speaking to every single seller and purchaser. And on the sales side, and again, what's great from the Hive perspective is that Lifetime Legal are sourcing not just data, but official, good quality data that we're able to lift and pass straight through to the iPacs. And an agent can be confident that, one, the data is official, it's speedy, and it's across the board. Because we're compatible with all UK CRM systems, it means that every client gets an iPac, they get the upfront information, irrespective of whether they do, utilize the conveyancing services. So estate agents can use iPacs on valuations as a part of their marketing arsenal, knowing fully well that they've got that across the board with clients. And it's information that won't need to be duplicated through the conveyancing process if they do instruct through us.
And so being able to be compatible with UK CRM systems and pretty much any UK CRM system, you are taking away all the barriers to, because sometimes people think, well, that's a really good idea, but I'm not going to get buy-in from my staff because they're not going to want to double input this into several different systems. You've now got the ability to sort of send that information through.
Yeah, I mean, the big backbone of what we do at Hive over the last 12 years is building a synchronization platform that can pull in all the property data from all of the different CRMs. As the new CRMs are coming out, we hook onto the APIs. So any agent can be confident that, we can get iPacs up and running with them, quickly. And it's across the board, because the trigger point for the creation of an iPac is the agent clicking the button to launch the property. And what happens with Lifetime Legal is the data that they provide, in addition to all of our local area information data sets, is just added as that becomes available. I can just share my screen now and just have
would you? I was going to say that would be great.
Just to give an idea, because what we built with the IPEC actually is designed first and foremost to provide buyers with information, rather than it being seen at a later stage once an offer's been accepted and the solicitors are getting on with the regulatory work. But what we're able to do is actually open up the information. So Chris was talking about the TA forms. So where we work with agents, and it's really key that we work with agents to develop a culture where they're encouraging clients. So a lot of our training is focused on the best way to encourage the agents to work with their vendor clients to complete their TA forms, because the ones that do means that we can get a wealth of information into the IPAC, and that's absolutely crucial. And we train touch points from the point of valuation through to the take on, and we provide live reporting as to what vendor clients are filling out, have part completed it, have dropped off. So it's a key part of what we do, because it's not something that can just sit and run in the background. The IPACs really only work when there's focus and attention to it. So I think our services as a whole are very much geared towards agents who are very much process driven, are open to staff being trained to do something one way continuously, and looking at the metrics to then ongoing improvement. But the IPAC itself, going back full circle, really, it can't be understated in terms of its impacts for use and evaluation. Because if you're an estate agent and you're talking to a client on a potential client, and you're presenting them with your branded IPAC, as you can see here on screen, and you're focusing on all the different data sets you've got from marketing information, land registry title plan, EPC, detailed property information, land registry scores, it goes on broadband and mobile.
It's really clear and accessible, so you don't need to be a property expert to know what, or to feel like you understand what this is talking about, because that really used to be where the conveyancing process always used to have this veil of mystique over it, where we would refer to things that buyers and sellers who let's face it, don't necessarily buy and sell every day, wouldn't be familiar with it, but it wouldn't be accessible. Those forms were really sort of difficult to read. But here, where you've broken down the information into different sections, I already know what I'm expecting to receive as soon as I see those icons, really.
Yeah, and it's ongoing as well. I know the news this week regarding Parts B and C of material information coming through for autumn. We'll be adapting what we do in terms of making sure that we're providing information in line. But I think also we have the land registry information that's contained within the compliance packs. You touched on making sure that agents are approving who the ownership rather than just the ID. Well, that land registry information is sent to us in a format that we actually provide the agents with back office insight alerts. So we're already reporting automatically on things like restrictive covenants, cautions, lots of niche things that agents could really do with knowing at the outset. And so it's not just what you see on the front end. There's an array of layers of information that we provide. And I think to put a wrapper on it, what's key is that we're turning sort of the burden of obligations of AML compliance and upfront information gathering into a positive experience for the agent. So rather than it's something they need to do, we're taking it out of their hands and actually providing an IPAC, which is the vehicle to say, use it to your advantage, embrace it, and support your brand with it, win more listings with it, and also get more information behind the scenes, as well as what you're showing to your buyers up front as well.
So you're letting that's doing the heavy lifting, really, and because I think that agents are very good at certain things. We're now being asked to do so much more than our core skills, if you like, or our core skill set. At the end of the day, we're good at helping people move. We are salespeople as well. We've never been great when it comes to sort of admin and keeping on top of the nitty gritty. And there's always been that nagging fear that you've missed something or you haven't done it properly. And particularly when it comes to AML, Chris, when to apply enhanced due diligence, when not to. It's so much easier, isn't it, when you've got professionals to guide you through that?
It is, and actually, I too come from a sales background. the law is very much, a second part of my career, if you like. But when an estate agent sits down with a clear overview of the facts and can effectively manage that client's expectations based on the information, that we've provided, it's a winner for them. And it's not just about managing expectations, it's about enhancing and delivering a better service, because some of the information that we can disclose within the Hive pack, we then use within the conveyancing transaction in order to try and understand how we can make that conveyance run more smoothly and run more quickly. For example, one of the things that we do when we are working on both sides, where we can and we like to, is we will order property searches based on the information supplied within our pack, and we found that we can reduce the turnaround time in property searches by up to 2 weeks if we're ordering them within 3 or 4 days of an offer being accepted. We speak to the customer and we explain to the purchasing customer that this is going to help things progress and move along more quickly. And it's things like that that enable us to, I think, really enhance what the estate agent does, whilst at the same time meeting to provide AML based on legislation.
Let's face it, it's an ever-evolving landscape in terms of political challenges that we're up against, economic challenges. I think we'll all agree that the conveyancing process in general, we felt particularly during the whole COVID period, got a little bit sluggish, and we all sat down and we debated how we could speed it up, and all of us agree, and any expert you speak to, the more you can get done up front at the beginning, helps you get ready to sell. But more than that, will actually shave weeks off your conveyancing process in the fullness of time. So really, this is a solution that it isn't just helping you meet your minimum obligations, it's going way beyond that. You'll probably find that, am I right in saying this, Bruce, that your cash flow also improves because you've got pipelines that are effectively smoother?
Yeah, I think that the answer to that's twofold. I think as the pipeline turn is probably naturally improved after the post-COVID logjam, but the way that the legal onboarding for the vendor client, in addition to the search ordering, when everything aligns nicely, you're cutting out substantial amounts of time, and agents that we work with, can actually expect a quicker turn of pipeline, and actually can affect their cash flow forecasting in a positive way.
And if I could just jump in around pipeline,
Sure.
One of the things we do for our estate agency clients is we chase and manage that pipeline. So, for example, when solicitors aren't reporting, completions effectively, and they aren't reporting related purchases and related transactions, related sales and the like, we keep a close eye on that, and we chase that money in, those referral fees in for our estate agents, and are very successful at doing it.
That's fantastic, because as I've said, we're busy wearing several hats, and it's you'd be amazed at how many agents just don't have the time to chase their own. They're chasing their client sales, they're making sure that that's all coming through, and they're absolutely on top of all of that. But when it comes to making sure that their own pounds and pence are looked after, we're particularly poor at that sometimes, because that's almost like a secondary concern of ours. We want to make sure we get the job done first. So it's great to sort of have professionals on board that are doing the same thing. And Bruce, we asked you for some stats, and you provided it, and this is a great accolade, if you like, and a confirmation of the fact that how popular these iPacks are. But you've generated over 15,000 of these since 2021 at your launch, and I expect as people ramp up to autumn 2023, when these things are going to change, agents are best advised to get ahead of that, make sure that everybody knows what they're doing, what the process is, before it comes in, make sure that they're well ahead. But that's very popular, isn't it?
Yeah, I think universally, when we talk to estate agents about what we do, the iPacks just make, because they're CRM compatible, You know, it makes it easy for the agent to, you know, to get on board and what we look after for them on the compliance side. So definitely forward-thinking agents that are embracing, you know, these obligations, you know, allowing us to look after these obligations for them, have just made it popular. But the look and feel of them, but there are also some add-ons to them. You know, we generate leads from them, so we've got, you know, request evaluation, viewing, buyers can make full offers through them for them. So, you know, an agent can actually create mail merges and text merges. So, you know, they can actually, they don't have a digital process for receiving offers. They can set that up in some of their CRM systems. So it's not just upfront information that we're providing. It's a listing tool. It's a lead generator. So there's nothing really for an agent not to like, which, you know, and I think with the CRM, you know, engine that's kind of generating them, it provides no barrier.
Well, it's a powerful listing tool, because effectively what you're doing is you're saying to a prospective seller, look, this is how we're going to present your property. This is the quality of the information that we're going to provide to your buyers. Wouldn't you like this if you were a buyer? And I think everybody would nod their head and say, yes, it's a breath of fresh air. This is what we want. But when we look at the actual service provision of a standard estate agency and the sort of quality of service that we're providing, not only to our paying clients who tend to be the sellers, but also buyers, let's face it, are the sellers of tomorrow. They're the clients of the future, and they speak to people as well. For them to have a pleasant experience with an estate agent, where the information that they want to, that normally they feel like they have to nag to get, is provided upfront and in an accessible fashion, I think you're raising customer service standards to a level that really does the industry a great service, but also it's going to really enhance the offering of your agency for the future. I don't think that point is made enough, but the quality of customer service is just exceptional.
Thanks, David, and sort of probably jump into Chris's remit, but more specifically on Lifetime Legal and their teams. You know, we very much train and embed our process for Lifetime Legal to act as an extension to the estate agents team. It's very well organised. There's a lot of, you know, dedication and relationships that are built there, and all the touch points along the way, from the valuation take on the AML passing through, and how we work all the way through to completion, with significant resource layers of significant resource behind the scenes for chasing, searching, you know, administration.
There are real people at the end of the telephone, you know, to deal with estate agents. That can, you know, estate agents can pick up the telephone and, you know, discuss a particular case or a particular client with us. It's not a nameless, faceless, automated process.
Chris, if I can ask you one last question. We've spoken about what happens when life goes to plan, so getting those completions through quicker. Sometimes life doesn't go to plan,
no,
and we end up losing sales along the way, probably more than we care to admit or remember. But when that does happen, wouldn't it be lovely if you had some sort of assurance that people aren't just spending money on a process that never really got somewhere? Because that leaves let's face it, leaves a bitter taste in their mouth if they get to the end of a process. And sometimes that's the point at which they think, oh, I need a new agent now, because I've already spent money on this. But there is protection for this, isn't there?
There is, yeah. So our service comes with what we call mover protection, and it allows a client that has suffered, you know, the collapse of a property chain or a transaction, to claim some money back if they've incurred costs. So, for example, things around searches, you know, if they've paid for their searches and a transaction has fallen through and it's no fault of their own, they get to claim that money back. And it's called mover protection. It's run as a membership scheme. And all of our clients become our members, and as a member, they can make a claim, and we pay about 90% of claims at the moment. They're more likely to claim in a leasehold setting than they are a freehold setting, but again, you know, run by real people that can talk to clients and explain to, you know, the client can explain what's happened, and we can try and make rectifications for them.
No, that's absolutely great. And in terms of the agents, I know you've got many satisfied agents that are already using this, and obviously that tie-up between Hive and Lifetime Legal is really bearing great fruit for them. In terms of the type of agent you're looking for that you work with, does it work for one agent more than another, or is it really suitable for all manner of agents?
It's suitable for all manner of agents. Lifetime Legal work with some of the largest agents in the industry and some of the smallest agents in the industry. We will work with anybody that wants to deliver a great service to clients. So actually, I'm probably going to kick that question back into Bruce, because it's Bruce's clients that we're talking about today, and it's those clients that are receiving the service. So I'm gonna swerve it, Bruce, and throw it back down to you.
Well, I think you answered it well, actually, in your own words. But I think going back to the teams at Lifetime Legal working as an extension to the agent, but with significant resource behind the scenes, that means by definition that we can plug in nicely to your owner operated single branches, all the way up to multi-branch companies that require real process driven services to be embedded, ongoing training, reporting, statistics, the accounting, the administration behind it. So no, we work with great clients, and the agents that want to embrace the process of creating the culture of gathering upfront information and presenting it to buyers. I think it's like any prop tech tool. If you're going to use it in your bag, on the valuations and all the way through, and make it work for you, then we can work with you, and that's probably the best.
I guess it comes down to how easy you want to make your life as well. So you can either see compliance as a burden and a chore, or you can see it as an opportunity, and an opportunity to not only sort of generate revenue, but also to enhance that level of customer service. And I would encourage all agents who are watching this to sort of get in touch with Bruce as early as you can and try and integrate this into your processes, because it looks good, it fits seamlessly with your CRM, and clients are really going to feel reassured. I mean, how much more reassured would a client feel that when the agent comes and they give them their pitch and they tell them how wonderful they're going to be and how the sale is going to be? Very few people concentrate on, actually, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, this is what backs us up. This is the nuts and bolts of how we present your property and the level of information. I think that it really just speaks of reassurance, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And I think also, agents that don't talk about AML and don't use AML to their advantage when they're going for a listing is crazy, because whilst on a negotiator level, sometimes they complain about the burden of doing an AML. The reality is, if your competitor has not discussed AML with the client, why on earth would your client want to transact their property with your competitor? How do they know that the person that's going to buy it is the right person to be buying that property, let alone being disappointed at the time it takes to do an AML in the beginning?
Yeah, absolutely. And needless to say, it also comes across as entirely unprofessional if you're doing it as an afterthought later down the line. Yeah. Oh, by the way, we now need to do this. Well, you've been dealing with me for 3 or 4 weeks. You know who I am, surely. And then that becomes very confrontational. So it's a lovely way to start the onboarding process. It's professional. It gives everybody that reassurance that things are being done correctly, and also that's the same standard that you're going to apply to potential buyers of that property as well. And as a vendor, that's what I'd want to know. So yeah, absolutely. I'd like to thank both of you for your time today. All of your details are available on kerfuffle.com. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, David.
Yeah.